In this video, I'm going to be talking about this game's second most attractive character, Captain. A pretty well-rounded dude whose ease of use honestly makes him one of my favorite characters to play. This kid's got quite a bit of flexibility and utility to it, as well as some solid damage. So let's just go ahead and talk about his abilities. Captain doesn't have any form of innate mobility, so his passive allows him to avoid taking hits from projectiles. Defensive microbots shoot down any enemy projectile that gets too close to whatever they're orbiting, whether that's you or a friendly drone. This thing fucking slaps. Like, while shooting down little baby Lemurian fireballs is pretty much irrelevant, your passive can destroy the projectiles from the big boy Lemurians, the Vagrant, and Greater Wisps, which is a huge help. Just try not to rely on it too much. You still gotta have those good dodges for the times when it's recharging. Now, his primary is pretty similar to Hand D's in that, depending on the situation, you can deal with threats at both close and long ranges. Vulcan's shotgun fires out a spread of 8 pellets that deal 120% damage each. The longer you charge it, the tighter the spread becomes. The fire rate's a little low, but hey, you got options with this thing. I think it's a good trade-off. What about crowd control? Does he have any of that, you might be thinking? Or maybe you're not thinking that, I don't fucking know. But if that is what you're thinking, I'm here to tell you that he does, in fact, have some of that. His secondary, Power Taser, fires a real quick little projectile that deals some damage and shocks enemies it hits. This effect can be cancelled if the enemy takes more than 10% of their maximum health while stunned. This thing's a really simple ability to use, and it's damn effective for shutting down spooky elites. You can fucking land a hit with it. Seriously, I know I just called it simple to use, but I don't know what it is with this thing. I can't hit shit with it. It's gotta be something to do with how fast it moves, I guess. I don't know. Brain bad. On to his utility, and hey look, more CC. Orbital Probe allows you to call down 3 airstrikes that deal 1500% damage each and stun enemies if they hit. Now, I will say that trying to target things in the air with this skill can be a bit of a pain in the ass, since it's got a bit of a delay, so it's going to be most effective against boys on the ground. It is incredibly useful not only for crowds, but also single targets. You're going to be getting a cool little 4500% damage with all 3 probes. If these are all headed towards one beefy boy, well, that ain't bad. And finally, his special, which is where the bulk of the utility in his kit lies. Orbital Supply Beacon allows you to call down a beacon that, after a short delay, will have an effect on wherever they land. Now, the skill is pretty interesting in that you can only call them down twice per stage, the trade-off being that they're permanent, so they're gonna stay there until you dip out. Also, they do a lot of damage when they land, cause why not? So you're going to have 4 different options for beacons. The first is an AoE that heals you and your allies for 10% of their max health per second. Next, you got a beacon that emits a shockwave that stuns enemies. This thing's very good at keeping a group of boys completely locked down. Whatever walks into it's just going to be stun locked. Then you have a resupply beacon that can recharge your active item, up to 3 times. Lastly, there's a hack beacon that will reduce the cost of all chests near it to 0. Just a heads up, this effect isn't always instant. Some chests are going to take longer to hack, so if you're going for a goldie with it, you might as well pull up a chair. And that's his kit out of the way. Not bad, right? Pretty good damage, more than one way to get a hold on spooky threats. Seems like a 10 out of 10, right? Well, like 9.9 out of 10, in my book at least. See, those of y'all with a brain that can remember more than 3 minutes into the past, recall that I said he doesn't have any mobility. That can be a pretty nasty drawback to alleviate without any quails or feathers, and if you find yourself going up against the big man without any, you're good fucking luck. The Captain's also got a couple of quirks to him. Let's start with the bad. If you're planning on going to any hidden realms, I got a cool bug fact for you. You're not going to be able to use your probes or your beacons. To be fair, there's a lore reason behind it, I guess. I don't respect it. Next, you got one that kind of seems like a bug to me. Not a cool bug, just like something that ain't working right. If you get yourself a Visions of Heresy, this eyeball right here, you'll end up with as many probes as you had Visions of Heresy charges. Which yeah, you two can end up spamming down 12 of them. Lastly, your passive gives you a copy of Defensive Microbots at the start of every stage. But since you'll only ever end up with one, you're free to crunch them at the end of a stage for some cool red scrap. Gonna be honest, Captain is like probably my ideal character for a game like this. I mean, except for his lack of mobility, of course. Outside of that, though, he's got a lot for me to like. His primary solid and fun to use. I fucking shit myself every time I land a hit with his taser, because I'm awful, so that's always fun. His probes can make quick work of boys, and with his special, you've got good utility, or heals for yourself, or your friends if you're playing with some buds. And I mean, he's hot, there's that too.